Assalamu alaikum and very good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here, and it is my real privilege to welcome you all to my talk. So today, I'm going to talk about one of the most important public health issues that occur everywhere, but nobody discussed that much. That is the consanguinity. So think about these two guys. They fall in love and get married. Now they want to extend their family member. Sounds good, right? But problem is what I can say you with the cousin or genetically related or blood related. This union can give you the child with abnormal birth or can give you the metabolic disorder like the beta thalassemia or other diseases. So see about this child. He just born in a village in a developing country. And by the age of 2, he actually needs to take blood every month. He's the patient of beta thalassemia. Remarkably, his parents was the cousin, and like other parents, these parents also that never heard about the consequences of these consanguineous marriages. So don't just think about the blood transfusion, think about the cost also. For each of the blood transfusion, it takes every year about like 205,000 to 6,000 of the USD. And also to manage the blood, it also not easy, especially countries like in the developing country. So let's talk about a little bit about the genetics. So we people have the DNA as a genetic material or inherited material, and our DNA is double-stranded. So one strand comes from the mother and one strand comes from the father. So with the sibling, we actually share 50% of the genes or the inherited material from our parents. Similarly, our first cousin or the cousin, they also shared, like first cousin shared 12.5% of the genes. Now, we all have some faulty genes in our genome. But we don't see that much about the consequences because we also have the 2 copies of these genes. So if one copies get down, another copies can give you the protection. But what happened when the cousin marries? So these faulty genes can come together into the offspring. So there is a good chance of 25% chance that offspring can be affected. So cousins marries gandum with the genetic lottery, and that can sometimes be the bad for us. But what I want to tell you, that is the probability. But I can show you with some example that the risk is actually very high. We'll see. Most of you may know about the very prominent empire of Europe, the Habsburg family. This family actually ruled the lead for more than 1 century. But to protect their blood, they actually always inbreed themselves or marry within the family. After a century, what happened, as you see here, so it's called the Habsburg Jaw. After centuries, that leads to a very severe genetic diseases. And they cannot chew, they cannot eat. Together with that, infertility comes together, and also the mental retardation that actually destroy their bloodline. Another classical example of discarded genes can be the Meckel-Gruber syndrome, a fatal genetic disorder that is also linked to the consanguinity or the blood-related or the cousin marriages. See here, the fetal actually is suffering from the abnormal growth of the neuron, abnormal growth of the brain, abnormal growth of the kidney, and also the lung. As a result, the fetus actually die before the birth or immediately after the birth. So this is a greater prevalence of consanguinity. So consanguinity, as you see here in the figure, was everywhere, but mainly the prevalence is varied from country to country. But if you see the blue line, it seems that in the Arab countries, especially the Muslim community, this consanguineous marriage is very high. These are the most prevalent countries where the consanguineous marriage is very high. As you see here, the Pakistan is at top. So more than 50% of the Pakistanis' marriage actually comes from the cousin. And why? Why people do the cousins marry? So it's maybe the attraction or the pure love. It can happen for the culture, for the status, to gain the wealth, and so on. Now, before a few years ago, in Bangladesh, there was no such study. What about the prevalence of the consanguineous marriage in Bangladesh, as well as what is about the consequences? So our group, we did an extended work throughout the country. We did a survey on 102 locations of the 58 Bangladesh districts. On the study group contains the consanguineous couple of 3,694 and non-consanguineous couple of 3,680. And what I found that in Bangladesh, the consanguineous gene is actually varied from 4 to 10%. So it's way high in the Sylhet where I actually come from. And when you look for the influence of this consanguineous marriage or the cousin marriage on the child, as you see here, under 5, at the left panel, if you see in the left panel, the under 5 child mortality rate is very high in the consanguineous family. Most remarkably, in the consanguineous family, the abortion or miscarriage rate also significantly high compared to the non-consanguineous family. When we count the number of the children they are affected in the Buddha cohort, we found that there was a significant, almost 3 times higher number of the children they are actually affected in the consanguineous family compared to the non-consanguineous family. And when we get all together, we found that some of the genes, what I talked about, the autosomal recessive disease, or there's a 25% chance that bad genes can come from or evaded from our parents to the offspring. This kind of disease also prevalent there, like thalassemia, disability, asthma, or such on. When you look for the knowledge, attitude, and practice among the consanguineous family, what we found that on the 3% of the people, they know about the effect of this consanguineous marriage, and they learned it before. And 49% of the people, they never heard about this consanguineous effect. So solution exists. So there is a problem, there is a solution, something like that. So here, as you see, if we can do the prenatal screening, which is mandatory in the many developed countries, but not yet in the developing countries. The aim of this prenatal screening is to identify what is the risk of his partner as well as for the next generation. The carrier screening, this is the screening where the main objective is just to know about the possible risk for the next generation. We can do the newborn screening where we can judge immediately if there is the crucial enzymes or hormones lacking in the bodies, and we can come into the actions immediately. And the awareness, which always the awareness can help us to protect from these issues. So genetics actually load the gun, but knowledge and the decision that actually decide in fire or not. So there is a success story also in the Cyprus, how they can prevent the thalassemia. It takes actually 25 years of planning at the policy level. They started in 1976. They started screening the highly risk families, and later on they made mandatory to the people the prenatal screening, and later on they included the DNA screening, and they succeed in 1991 and 2001 within this area, where every year in the Cyprus the amount of thalassemic born was around like 30 per year. So it comes like 2 or 3 per year. So they reduce it by making the policy, good policy, like prenatal screening and genetic screening in the policy. So silence is the real risk. Too many people are affected. Too many doctors actually avoid to tell about these consequences. We people also silent, and we are not talking about these issues. But if we can talk scientifically and sensitively, maybe we can overcome these issues too. So what I can want to say, yes, the casus Mary can be a genetic gamble, but Cavildel is not a like destiny, it's a decision. By using the right tools, awareness, and empathy, we can reduce this risk. We can change the future without changing our faith or tradition. So, love is the power. If we can connect the science with this lab, we can change the next generation's health. So, thank you guys for connecting with me in this conversation. And let's dispose this message that consanguineous can be a gamble, can be a genetic gamble, but we can overcome this if we can scientifically and sensitively aware everybody. Thank you, guys.